She was live on national television, millions of people watching, smiling, talking, laughing at something her co-host said, looking completely, totally fine. But behind that smile, something was happening. Something she had been quietly carrying for weeks, maybe longer. And when the truth finally came out, the internet didn't just react. It stopped. Stay with me. Because this story is not what the headlines made it sound like. If you've ever turned on morning TV in America, you know the face, Savannah Guthrie, co-anchor of NBC's Today Show. One of the most recognizable faces in American television, period. Every single morning, she shows up. Polished but warm. Confident but human. The kind of anchor who doesn't feel like she's reading from a script. She feels like she's talking to you, like she already knows you, like she'd pull up a chair if she could. That's her gift. And it took years, real years, to build. Because here's what most people don't know about Savannah Guthrie. She didn't start in TV. She started in law. She passed the bar, built a legal career from nothing. And then one day, she made a decision that people around her thought was borderline insane. She walked away from law and walked straight into journalism. No safety net, no guarantee, just a decision and the willingness to start over. And slowly, story by story, year by year, she climbed. Local reporter, White House correspondent, NBC News, and finally, the Today Show anchor chair, one of the most watched morning programs in the country. By her mid-40s, she had something most people spend their whole lives chasing, a career that mattered, a husband she loved, two little kids who called her Mom, a life that felt full and real and earned, and that's exactly when life decided to test her. But before we get to that, you need to understand who she really is. Not the version on camera. The real one. Because if you only know Savannah Guthrie as a TV anchor, you're missing the bigger picture. She married Michael Feldman in 2014, a political consultant, not a celebrity, not someone chasing cameras, a real partner, a private wedding, the kind that doesn't end up on magazine covers. And together, they had two children, Vale and Charlie. Anyone who watches the Today Show knows how she talks about those kids. It's not performed. It's not calculated. It's the kind of thing that slips out naturally because you genuinely can't contain it. She said once, on air, without any setup, that becoming a mother didn't just change her priorities. It changed her, like she became a different version of herself. One that saw the world differently, felt things more deeply, fought harder, and she was living that life, building that life, day by day, morning by morning. And then, without warning, her body sent a message she couldn't ignore. It started with her eye. In 2023, Savannah Guthrie vanished from the Today Show set. No explanation at first. No big announcement. One morning, she was just not there. And when you're someone millions of people watch every single morning, your absence doesn't go unnoticed. It took maybe a day before social media started asking questions. Where is she? Is she okay? What happened? And then the news came out. She had suffered a serious eye injury. The kind that doesn't wait. The kind that requires surgery immediately, or the damage becomes permanent. A torn retina. If you've never heard of that, here's what it means. The thin layer that lines the inside of your eye, the part responsible for everything you see, starts to pull away. And once that process starts, every hour matters. It is painful. It is frightening. And for someone whose entire career is built in front of cameras and bright studio lights, the idea of losing vision is not just scary, it's devastating. She had the surgery. She recovered. And when she came back to that anchor chair, the relief from viewers was real, genuine, warm. She was back. Everyone exhaled. But here's what nobody realized in that moment. That wasn't the end of her health story. It was just the opening chapter. The word cancer does something specific to people. It doesn't matter if you hear it about a stranger or someone you've known your whole life. It lands differently than other words, heavier, sharper, like it takes up more space in the air than it should. It makes the future feel uncertain in a way that nothing else quite does. And for Savannah Guthrie, that word arrived in her life while most people were still relieved. About her eye. While everyone was celebrating her comeback, quietly, something else was developing. Something the cameras couldn't capture. Reports began surfacing about a new health situation. Something separate from the eye injury. Something that had been discovered, investigated, confirmed. Skin cancer. Now, pause here for a second. Because the words skin cancer sometimes make people underestimate what they're actually hearing. We live in an era where sunscreen commercials and dermatologist TikToks have made people feel like skin cancer is always the manageable kind, the early catch kind, the don't worry, we got it kind. And sometimes, yes, it is, but not always. There are forms of skin cancer that move fast, that spread before you realize what's happening, that require aggressive treatment and leave nothing in your life untouched. Not your schedule, not your energy, not your family, not the way you look at ordinary mornings. And for someone like Savannah, someone who has spent decades under studio lighting, under layers of makeup, under heat lamps and camera flashes, the years add up in ways that aren't always visible until something goes wrong. But the detail that hit people hardest wasn't the diagnosis itself. It was how she found out, not from a dramatic moment, not from a symptom that knocked her off her feet, the kind of quiet discovery that happens when you go in for something routine, a check, a follow-up, something you almost canceled because life was busy and you didn't think it was urgent. And then the results come back, and the day you thought was ordinary isn't anymore. There's a before and an after, and you step from one side to the other in the span of a phone call. That's the moment Savannah Guthrie had to face, and she had already been through so much. The eye, the surgery, the recovery. She had already fought her way back once, in full view of millions of people, and now she was being asked to do it again. Except this time, it was bigger. When the news spread online, the reaction wasn't what you might expect. It wasn't gossip. It wasn't the usual internet noise. It was fear. Real, quiet, human fear. People who had never met Savannah Guthrie, who had never been in the same room as her, were posting long messages about what she meant to them, about the mornings she got them through, about the way she made the news feel less cold, less distant, about the way she made them feel, somehow, less alone. Complete strangers writing paragraphs for a woman who would never read them. Because here's the truth that most people don't say out loud. For millions of viewers, Savannah Guthrie is not just a television personality, she is part of their day. She is the voice that greets them before they're fully awake. The face that's there through the breaking news and the lighter stories and the interviews and the moments in between. She became, without anyone planning it, a presence in the daily lives of people across the country. And when something threatens that presence, it doesn't feel like celebrity news. It feels personal. It feels like something is being taken from you. And underneath every comment, every tweet, every shared article, there was one question that nobody wanted to ask out loud, but everyone was thinking, is she going to be okay? This is where the story shifts. Because Savannah Guthrie, in true Savannah Guthrie fashion, didn't go quiet. She didn't disappear into private treatment and release a statement 6 months later. She didn't let the story be told without her voice in it. She spoke. Not through a publicist. Not through a spokesperson managing the narrative. She addressed it the way she does everything. Directly. Personally. Like a human being, not a brand. And if you've ever watched her on television, you already know that's exactly what you'd expect from her. But knowing something is possible and actually watching it happen are two different things. Because what she did took courage. A specific, quiet kind of courage that doesn't look for applause. Think about what that moment actually requires. You've just received a diagnosis. The fear is fresh. The treatment plan is still being mapped out. Your family is processing. Your kids are at home, probably asking questions you don't have answers to yet. And you choose, in that window of uncertainty, to be open. Not because it's easy. Not because the PR team told you to. But because being real is simply who you are. Even when real is terrifying. That is not a small thing. Her colleagues on The Today Show, Hoda Kotb, Craig Melvin, Al Roker, the whole team, showed up for her. Not in a staged, let's address this on air kind of way, in the way people show up for someone they genuinely love, because that's what those relationships are. People forget sometimes. The people on morning television, the ones who share a set every single day for years. They know each other, really know each other. They've been through pregnancies and losses and health scares and personal crises, most of which the audience never saw. When one of them goes through something like this, it isn't a colleague navigating a PR moment. It is someone you love going through something hard. And the way her team showed up told you everything about both who she is and who they are. But here's something that got lost in all the headlines. Something that doesn't fit neatly into a news segment, but matters more than most of what was actually reported. When a person with a public platform receives a health diagnosis and chooses to talk about it openly, something shifts in the world around them. It's been documented. Health researchers have studied it. They call it the celebrity health disclosure effect, and what it describes is simple but powerful. When someone people trust, someone they watch, someone they feel connected to, talks about their diagnosis, people respond. Not passively, actively. After Savannah's situation became public, dermatology clinics and skin check services saw increases in bookings. People who had been putting off a visit for months, sometimes years, suddenly made the call. Spots that had been ignored got examined. Moles that seemed harmless got checked. Conversations with doctors that had been postponed, for no reason except that life gets busy and you assume you're fine, finally happened. Because she was honest. Because she let people see that it could happen to anyone. Even someone healthy. Even someone successful. Even someone who looks fine on camera every single morning. That is a kind of impact that never shows up in ratings. You can't measure it in view counts or headlines, but it might be the most important thing she's ever done. And she didn't even plan it. She just told the truth. Here's what I keep coming back to when I think about this story. We talk about strength like it's obvious, like it's easy to spot. We put it in headlines. We celebrate it in speeches. We admire it from a safe distance, but we rarely talk about what strength actually costs. Savannah Guthrie has spent her entire career showing up for other people's stories, interviewing presidents, sitting across from world leaders, reporting in the middle of national crises, holding space for people in their worst moments, and asking the questions that needed to be asked so the rest of us could understand what was happening. She built her life around telling other people's truths, and then, suddenly, she became the story. The person on the other side of the camera. The one sitting with uncertainty, waiting for results, building a treatment plan, processing information she never expected to have to process. There's no teleprompter for that. There's no script. There is just you. And the silence before the next thing happens. And the weight of knowing that the people who need you, really need you, are at home waiting. Savannah Guthrie has 2 young children. Let that sit for a second. Not teenagers, not adults. Young children who don't understand what a diagnosis means or what treatment involves, or why mom sometimes seems tired in a different way than before. They just know her as mom, the person who shows up for them, who reads to them, who is there. And I genuinely believe, that's the thing that drives someone through something like this more than any career ambition or public pressure ever could. Not the job, not the legacy, the kids asking what's for breakfast, the husband who reaches for your hand in a waiting room, the ordinary moments that stop feeling ordinary when you're not sure how many you have left. That's what makes someone fight. That's what keeps someone showing up. When showing up is the hardest thing they've ever done. And here is what you actually need to know. The part that matters beyond the fear and the headlines. Savannah Guthrie did not disappear. She did not step away and let the silence speak for her. She kept working. She continued appearing on the Today Show. She kept doing what she has always done. She showed up, and I know that might sound simple, but it isn't, because showing up when you're scared, when your body is being treated and your mind is full of things you can't say on camera, is not a small act. It is a daily choice, made before the alarm has fully gone off, made in the makeup chair, made every time the light turns red and you look into the camera and decide, again, to be present. She made that choice, again and again, and for every fan who feared the worst, for every worried comment, for every quiet prayer sent by someone who'd never met her, her continued presence was the answer. Not a press release, not a statement. Her, still there, still herself, still showing up. Here's the part of this story I want you to carry with you. Not the drama, not the headline, not the fear. This. We move through life with the quiet assumption that the things we count on will always be there. The people we watch, the voices we trust, the small anchors of our daily routine that we've never once stopped to appreciate because they've always just been there. We don't think about what it takes for someone to show up every single day, to keep the smile real and the energy present and the work meaningful, through everything happening behind the scenes that we never see. Savannah Guthrie reminded millions of people of something they already knew, but had maybe forgotten. That the people on the screen are people, with fear and kids, and mornings where everything feels too heavy, and days where getting out of bed is the bravest thing they do. She is not a symbol. She is not an idea. She is a woman who got a diagnosis she didn't ask for, who had every reason to step back and protect herself from public scrutiny during the hardest season of her life, and she chose instead to keep going. Quietly, consistently, without making it a performance. And somewhere out there, there is a person who heard her story and booked a skin check they'd been putting off for 2 years. There is someone who noticed something on their arm and finally made the call. There is someone who is alive and doesn't know why. And the reason, tracing backward through a chain of small decisions, starts with a morning television anchor who decided to be honest. That is not a small life. That is not a small story. And it deserves more than a passing scroll. So the next time you see her in that anchor chair, laughing with her co-hosts, asking a hard question, doing what she's always done, remember what it cost to get there. Remember that strength doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just looks like showing up. One more morning, and then the next. I want to know something from you. Did you know about Savannah Guthrie's health journey? And when you hear a story like this, someone you've watched for years going through something this personal, does it change how you see them? Drop it in the comments, because stories like this deserve more than silence, and so do the people living them.